Hello everyone, welcome to the video. In this video, I'm going to share the 5 ways that I use to avoid taxes legally. And I'm talking about crores of rupees in taxes. So these are not small amounts and these are not small hacks. These are big transformations that I've made in my mindset, my process, and my investing style in order to avoid taxes, right? And just be mindful that the goal of life is not tax avoidance. It is to live a simple, happy, and healthy life. So whenever you think about taxes, at least for me, what I do is I try to automate it as much as possible and make key decisions or transformations that will automate the process of tax avoidance rather than having to research those small things or loopholes or leaks or schemes that will avoid tax. So this video is going to be different than the other tax avoidance videos probably that you've watched, and these 5 ways will also be very unique because these are the things I've learned over the past 12 years and I've implemented those slowly. But once you've done your research, and if you choose to do one of these things, then you'll see that you don't have to worry about tax avoidance. It just happens as a way of life, as a way of how you do things. Okay, so let's start with this video. The first one is I don't sell. Right now, you might have expected some fancy government scheme that you can use to avoid tax or something like that. Like I said, those kinds of things are not what I'm going to talk about because they add a layer of complexity and they add a layer of stress to life. I want tax avoidance to be automated and I want it to be as less stressful as possible. So not selling is a very simple way to avoid tax. I have been investing consistently. I've grown my portfolio with the help of my business as well as with the help of compounding from the market to around close to 3.4 CR right now. And all of this amount, I'm just going to keep buying into the market. I'm not going to sell this. So you can see here that as of now, I've invested 2.45 and the market has given me back 92 lakhs, which is all, of course, long-term investments. But if I was to sell any of this, I will have to pay a tax on the amount that I sell, on the profit that I've made from the market. So the present value is 3.38, and you'll continue to see this present value grow because I don't sell my investments. The other strategy that I would recommend for people who want to take money from those investments, I mean, this is just something that I'm sharing, but it's not a prescription. You can do your own research and you can decide what you want to do, but this is what I would do if I had to take some of that money out from my investments. So keep investing and then take a loan against the investments that you've made. Your investments are going to continue to grow at a higher rate than the interest rate of your loans so that you can take those, return that loan, and then just pass on the entire investment portfolio to the next generation. Now, there's a very specific way that I'm planning to pass on the portfolio to the next generation. And that's something that I'm still working out on, so I'm not making a video on that. But once I've done my research, I'm currently researching the Rockefeller family and how they have been able to transfer generational wealth generations down the line. So usually you might have heard that, 1 or 2 generations down the line, they lose all of the money that the previous generations have made. And since I'm self-made, I've made all of this, I'm self-aware as well, and I completely understand that the next generations might fall into this trap. So one thing that I'm doing is just living a simple life so that that's the environment that's in the family. And the other thing that's very important to do is, since you're not selling, you're not upgrading your lifestyle. And you'll have to find other sources, which we'll discuss in the second point, of income to just meet your expenses. So if you keep investing, you can then take a loan against it, like I said, and then you can just pass it on. And we'll discuss about the passing it on in a future video. The second method is just my rule, which is I don't trade. And because I don't trade, I don't sell. So it goes back to the previous point. The more you trade, the more you sell, because trading involves buying and selling. And every time you sell, you lose on the compounding benefit of the long-term investing approach. You also have to pay tax, right? So you keep selling, you keep taking the profits out, and you keep paying the tax. And all of that money that you've paid the tax on after selling is not working for you in your compounding journey. So your compounding only starts when your trading stops. And this is something I tell my friends who trade. I don't recommend them anything, but I do tell them that you're probably smarter than me. You're definitely smarter than the market, which is why you're trading. I'm not smarter than the market. I am the market. I'm an index investor. So I am the market. I'm not trying to beat the market, but my wealth will keep compounding over time because I don't sell. And because I don't trade, I don't have to sell. So this is very important. Even if you look at my holdings and my portfolio, you'll see that I have the mid cap 150, next 50, Nifty 50. Just move the video to the side. So we have 44 lakhs present value in mid cap 150. We have 43 lakhs in next 50, 38 lakhs in Nifty 50. Nothing here gives me stress about selling. These are 47, 60, 42% up. If they were 10, 20, 30% down in the red, it would still be completely okay because of how safe these are. Right? If India is going to grow as an economy, which it will, that is my bet on India, then all of these will grow because this is just the index. It's just the top 250 companies of our country, right? And then we have a small cap fund. We have the NASDAQ 100, which I believe since most of the tech innovation happens in the US, it's going to continue to grow. Then we have a mid-cap fund, another mid-cap fund, S&P 500, which I'm no longer investing in very consistently, but NASDAQ 100 is my fund of choice for the international diversification aspect. And then finally, we have gold, which in a country like India is, at least for now, continue to grow. So, but with equity, it's really important to understand that I am not going to trade and I'm not going to sell. Now, during rebalancing my portfolio, which I do once in a year or twice in a year, I might have to strategically sell a few things here and there to adjust for my proportions. If you were to look at my top proportions, it's typically 30% into Nifty 50, 20 to 30% into next 50, 30% into mid cap, and then 10% into NASDAQ 100, right? That's my ETF portfolio split. And then my mutual fund portfolio split is more small cap heavy. And I've recently added momentum funds, which is something that we'll discuss in one of the future videos. But all of these holdings, I'm trying to invest into holdings that can be kept or held on to for hundreds of years. That's really the kind of mindset that I use before I invest money anywhere. And hence I don't trade. So this is a big leak, I think, in terms of tax. When you trade, you sell, you pay tax. It's a leak from your compounding journey. And I truly believe in the power of compounding, and hence I don't trade. Okay. So the goal is to take this portfolio, keep investing, and pass it on to the next generation. So how do you survive? That could be an interesting question. Now, I do have assets that I'm building or I've built with my Airbnbs, for example, with different business channels, for example, which will create passive income streams for my expenses. And I want this to match my expenses and keep increasing the passive income streams to match my expenses. Another thing that I'm working on is building businesses that I can manage with less time and energy, right? So more scalable business. I would still continue to do consulting, which is high investment of time and energy and low scalability because I enjoy it. I work as a consulting growth marketeer, so I love to do that. And I also work as a fractional CMO for different brands, including Shark Tank brands and so forth. So I love to do that, and that's something that I'll continue doing. But apart from that, I will build these passive income streams, which I already have. I just need to increase them over time. I don't have to do it right away, but I have a goal of how much passive income I need for when I'm 35, which I'm going to be in 1.5 years, when I'm 40, when I'm 45, how much passive income should, be increased in those time periods. That's something that I'm working on. Instead of thinking about, I have this huge portfolio, now I can take 4% of that every year or 6% of that every year, and it will never reduce because it will stay the same, but it's not going to increase for the next generation. So that's my goal with my portfolio, right? And this actually helps in saving a lot of tax. Now, registering a company. This is very interesting because before this, I started my journey as a freelancer in 2012. 2014, I incorporated my company in Bangalore. So this is what I learned, and this is why I incorporated the company, to be very honest. I learned that business owners will always end up paying less tax than employees, which Sounds unfair, but what can you do about it? And I'll share a very interesting example from my company. And one of my team members came to me and said, can I work with you as a freelancer versus a full-time employee? Because that way you can pay my company. I'm going to incorporate a company. You can pay my company and I can show all of this as expenses. He's sitting in a place. He has a huge monitor. He has a laptop. He's going to the coffee shop for meetings sometimes. He's drinking coffee there. He's ordering a coffee for someone else. Suddenly, all of those things become deductible expenses from your tax sheet, right? And that's why I think it's a great transition that I made from 2014 onwards to become a business owner. And, honestly, when I started incorporating the company, I did not even know what I would do with the company, but I just learned about this. And I was obviously young and excited to try things out. I still consider myself pretty young, but at that point of time, it was just like, try things out, right? Experiment. And I'm still a very experiment-driven person. I experiment with things and see what works best. And that's something that really changed the game for me, right? So everything now was an expense. And that's why I said, these strategies you only have to do once, and they have saved crores of rupees in taxes. So if you calculate all of the crores that I've invested, if I was trading with that money, if I was making all of this income that I make as an individual and not as a business, lot of difference, right? So 2014, like I said, was when I incorporated. But number 4 is even more interesting. Number 4 is moving to a more tax efficient country. So I moved my company to Singapore. Now, there's nothing emotional about this. It's a business entity. I was paying taxes. It was registered in the Karnataka state, and which had nothing to do after a certain point of time with my business or my clientele, right? So as of 2020, I had clients from across the globe. So from 2014 to 2020, I'd also started teaching marketing. So I've written a few books on growth marketing. I have a few courses on growth marketing. My first book was published 2016 mid, and my second book, which is Mastering Growth Marketing, was published very recently. So, and these were getting, orders. I was getting clients from all over the place. And I also started realizing the limitations of having an India company at that point of time. So it was not just for tax, but there were different reasons that I moved my company to Singapore. These are 4 major reasons, but there's a lot of other reasons. One was I was paying around 25 to 30% in tax, and that came down to 15 to 17%. And as a percentage, you can see already that it's almost half of what we were paying before. So if a business was making, let's say, $1 million with a 50% profit margin, which is not rare in the services business, right? So $500,000, you would be taxed on that $500,000. So that's the kind of numbers that we are working with, right? So the tax already is like more than 1 crore. The other big benefit that we got from the Singapore company was we were able to accept a lot of different payment methods. We signed up for Stripe and all kinds of things which are not supported back then in India. And we were not restricted by RBI guidelines. So since we are an international growth marketing company, we have to run Facebook ads, Google ads. We have to do all those kinds of things. We have to pay for tools like email marketing tools like Klaviyo, Shopify Plus, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Of course, some of these things are possible from India, but many of these things we were just facing card declines, and you have to do prepaid versus, you get billed at the end. A lot of subscriptions were failing because of RBI keeps changing those guidelines and all that stuff. So we were really stressed about why is this legal operational stuff holding us back from doing business. So instead of that, we just moved to Singapore. By the way, international clients loved that we had a Singapore company. We, in fact, they loved that we have a Singapore company, and we got higher retainers because just by being a Singapore company. So not just that we saved tax, but we made a lot more money, right? So, and all of this, the incorporation in Singapore, the tax system, the management of the accounting, I've outsourced to a partner. And while they haven't sponsored this video, I do have a partnership with them. I do have an affiliate with them. So I'm going to put a link down for an offer that you can get, which is a 16% off on the incorporation fees that they have. So if you're in that bracket and if you think this is helpful, this was something that made a lot of difference. One was just registering a company. That could be the first level. And once you're making enough money, you might want to move to a more tax efficient country for your company. Finally, this is something that I'm considering. I'm open to thoughts, but I have a few options in mind, is to move your residency to a more tax efficient country. Again, like I said, these 5 ways are not those simple hacks. So they are not things that you just fill a form or sign up for a government scheme and you save ₹1,00,000 or something like that. These are huge changes or huge transformative steps that you take. But once you take them, the tax avoidance is just automated, right? So if you're not happy with the tax system in your country, instead of writing YouTube comments or Twitter posts, you can just move to a more tax efficient country. And that's something a lot of my friends have moved to Dubai, and some have moved to Eastern Europe, or some have moved to South America from a tax residency perspective, right? Some of these places do need you to spend like a minimum of 6 months in those countries, some of them 3 months. So it depends. Different countries have different regulations. So those are 5 ways, and this is something that I'm still working on. I'm partly on my way to shortlisting that country. But these are 5 ways you can make major transformative tax avoidance. And again, like I said, this is just my personal framework. Some of you might want to, just look at different channels. I've seen some videos where people are talking about the different schemes that you can leverage. For me, I just like to take these big steps and then let it be. Small tax here and there, I don't really mind. So, quick question. I'm going to leave you guys with this question, is to guess which countries I have shortlisted. Even if you get one right, I think that'll be a good win. And I have my book, which is my Golden Rules of Investing. So I'll be happy to share that book for the winners who get the one right. So that's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.